Toward the beginning of story we see three companions named Daniel, Alicia and Chris and a photographic artist Dobby. Really Alicia is Daniel's sweetheart and Chris is Daniel's closest companion. Those three comes in Georgian wilderness for setting up camp. Davi is clicking their photos then advises everybody to remain close to the shrubs so he can snap a picture of them, three together each of them. Three stand there following his aide. However at that point Davi sees from the camera that something is under Chris' foot. He tells Chris don't move saying something is under Chris' foot. Daniel checks there. He comes to realize that it is a landmine and assuming Chris moves even a tad of his foot it will detonate. Hearing this everybody gets terrified. Then Davi lets them know all to resist the urge to panic and says he will find support from police yet it might require 4 to 5 hours. And for the good of security nobody ought to be around Chris. Daniel then, at that point, sends Dobby to find support and he remains by Chris' side. Then Alicia turns out to be extremely frightened of this. To quiet her down Daniel removes an Alicia a long way from Chris and fortunately his telephone gets a sign and afterward he calls for help. His call likewise gets associated. Daniel advises them to send a bomb master for help then he lets Alicia know that they are declining to help us in view of you. Alicia doesn't comprehend his point. Then Daniel says that he is saying that we don't help horse saying this. Daniel returns to Chris. He realizes that Alicia is going behind his back with his dearest companion Chris. Alicia advises Daniel that I was going to let you know everything before marriage so kindly pardon me and call the police for help. Daniel expresses that there is no versatile sign here. I was tricking you. And when he found out about Alicia and Chris' undertaking he arranged this excursion to get back at the two of them and he and Davi established the mine here so he could kill the two of them. Now Daniel goes to Brambles and bring a spade. He tells Alicia now you are Chris' last any desire for endurance and you can save him by digging a profound pit here and he's abandoning them in wilderness. Alicia makes a respectable attempt to stop him yet he couldn't care less and leaves. Davi is hanging tight for him ahead and when Daniel shows up the two of them leave yet. While returning to the Chris Alicia began digging a pit so she can save him. After certain hours a tracker comes there with his canine and sees Alicia and Chris. His canine attempts to go after Chris yet Alicia stops him. After that the tracker focuses a firearm at the two of them. Alicia attempts to persuade him that my companion's foot is on a landmine yet the tracker feels that these individuals are killers and they have killed and covered somebody here. Alicia lets him know his companion foot is on mine. Might you at any point assist me with uncovering it here? Then he consents to help. The tracker's name is Ilya. Ilya gets out whatever will I get by aiding you folks. Now Alicia says that you can take all my stuff. Rather he is thrilled to hear yet again this and hurries to check her back in which he finds an underwear. Now he tells Alicia that I need the underwear you are wearing and by saying this he featured pestering Alicia. Seeing this Chris advises him to pause and give him $300 and his visa. Then Ilya says that I don't need cash and in the event that she don't give me her underpants then I will leave from here. So Alicia is compelled to give her underpants to him. And when Alicia begins going to the tent to eliminate the underpants he stops her and says that you should eliminate them here before me. Alicia has just a single method for finding support so she removes her underwear and gives it to him after which he begins digging a pit to help her. However at that point there is a radio in his back which ends up being his radio telephone. Seeing this Alicia solicitations to utilize his radio telephone so she can call somebody here for help. Yet again he expresses out loud whatever will I get by giving you the telephone. Alicia demands a ton from him. However at that point he discards her underwear and says that you should come to me like a canine holding you underpants in your mouth. Hearing this Alicia rejects him and starts digging once more yet before long acknowledge she can't dig a pit without assistance so she slither like a canine and give Ilya her underwear after which he gives her the radio to utilize. Alicia calls the crisis number yet the official and call doesn't have the foggiest idea about the English language. That is the reason she can't make sense of anything for him. Then she requests that Ilya call for help for us in Georgian in which he says that he will call for help for you yet first you must be stripped yourself. Hearing this Alicia advises him to leave yet presently the official was over and over requesting replies on the radio so Ily advises Alicia to answer that we are totally fine on the off chance that she doesn't do this a police case might be recorded on him. So Ilya drives her to say so yet Alicia doesn't know Georgian so Ilya says that I will decipher for you yet for this you should continue to remove your garments individually until cop is happy with your response. That is the reason Alicia needs to remove her top for the principal reply. After this officials quit asking questions that is for what reason as per the arrangement. Nom de plume begins leaving from that point yet really at that time the officials talk on the radio. That is the reason Ilya comes running back. Alicia is being terrified and she demands him that he ought to leave her yet Ilya takes her at gunpoint. Chris manhandles Ilya and Ilya goes to him in fury removing as an opportunity. Alicia runs from that point. Ilya tosses his firearm on ground and with his canine he pursues her here with the assistance of chain. Chris takes Ilya's weapon by then Ilya likewise comes there while kidnapping Alicia. In the meantime Chris guides firearm on Ilya and asked him toward leave Alicia. Ilya Says on the off chance that you shoot me Alicia will bite the dust too. He takes Alicia behind the stone and begin applauding her seriously. Chris can't shoot regardless of whether he needs to on the grounds that his point isn't that great after this. Similarly as he is going to take shots at Ilya, his canine assaults Chris and thumps him into a trench. Some other time when Chris recaptures cognizance he discovers that he coincidentally shoot Alicia and she has been killed. Then Ilya let him know that the mine was phony and he leaves. From that point in a little while Chris shows up at a neighborhood's home. A lady and her little girl emerge and he inquires as to whether they have a guide. The young lady says she can print a guide on her PC. Chris circumvents the house and up the steps where he is welcomed by the young lady and her mom who present themselves as Lika and Tanya. In the meantime Ilya is keeping an eye on his honeybees. On the opposite side of the property they welcome Chris inside their home as they give him the guide. Tanya offers him for lunch so Chris acknowledges their proposition. Then he is accompanied inside the lounge area where he finds a seat at the table. In the wake of completing work Ellie returned his house. He's shocked seeing Chris with his better half and little girl. Elliot then advises him to leave yet Chris decline is saying he will have lunch first. Billy would rather not act dubious before his better half and little girl, so he tells Chris he can eat. Chris begins eating and completes his dinner. After that Ilya removes Chris from his home and races to get his weapon, yet slugs are missing. Chris begins grinning at him and afterward Chris takes out his weapon on and shoots senseless on the two kneecaps. Tanya hears the disturbance and sees her better half on the ground. He advises Tanya to get Ellie inside and for Lickett to assist her mom with putting Ellie on a couch, and Chris tells Tanya to stand in the corner. He also orders liquor to tie Tanya by her hands and feet. Sadly Liquor sobs as she ties her mother up. Chris shows Ellie underwear and asks him who it belongs to. Liquor says it's hers while Ilya keeps begging Chris to forgive him, saying he only did that to Alicia because he was drunk. Unsatisfied Chris grabs Liquor and starts taking off her underwear. Then he throws it and orders Liquor to bring it to him like a dog with no other choice. Liquor crawls to it and hands it to Chris. Chris goes to Ilya and shoves it inside his mouth, making him taste it. Chris tells them they are going to play a game. Chris takes Liquor and says they are going to play roulette. He removes all the bullets from his revolver and leaves one. Chris says he will spin the cylinder. She will take off a piece of her clothing. He spins the cylinder and shoots in an empty chamber, which means Lick has to take off a piece of her clothing. Ilya begs Chris to spare his daughter and focus his anger on him, but he refuses. Ilya then crawls on the floor to save his daughter. Chris keeps spinning the cylinder and demanding Lickett to remove her clothes. Liquor starts taking off her clothes and Chris once again spins the cylinder. Unfortunately he shoots Lick in the head, killing her instantly. Tanya and Ilya in despair as their daughter dies before their eyes. Chris then backs up to a corner and sits by himself bearing a face showing great sadness and regret. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.